All right, Andrew. So now we're going to talk about the Compromise of 1877. Now this happened in reaction to the election of 1876. We have Hayes, he was an R, which means he was a
Republican.
Okay. From, do you remember?
I don't. Ohio.
It's from Ohio, and he was a general. Do you remember who he went against?
No.
So he went against Tilden. From?
New York.
He was a banker slash.
Governor.
Okay, good. Now, why this ended up being controversial in the election was that Tilden won. Tilden had more votes. But in some of the states which had not yet accepted the 10% plan, they were not considered reconstructed. 3 states, Louisiana, South Carolina, and of course, what state always messes up elections?
Texas.
No.
California. Florida.
There we go. Florida. If something went wrong in an election, you better believe Florida's involved because Florida's got Florida. Those 3 states did not count the votes of black people. And based off of the 15th Amendment, they should have because they had the right to vote. So when those votes were counted, Hayes won. So you have Tilden winning the popular vote and kind of the election, and then Hayes winning the election with the count of the black vote in those 3 states. So each party is saying, hey, we won. We have the next president. This is great. The Republicans were in power. They had the majority of the power. They had the House. They had the Senate. They had the previous president, Grant. So they're saying, no, our guy won. Hayes won. Hayes is the next president. How do you think the Southerners and the Democrats are going to react to this?
They're gonna fight.
They're going to fight. They're saying, this is wrong, we won, and we are going to, what's the S word we're afraid of?
I don't know.
Secede.
Oh,
All right, they were
yes.
going to secede again, meaning that all the Reconstruction of the last 11 years and the Civil War for the 5 years before that would have meant nothing. We're starting all the way over after everything. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, so these people would not have died in vain, gone. So, they come up with a committee. Do you remember this, the 15-man committee?
Oh yeah.
What was special about that? That doesn't look right. Is it 2 M's and 2 T's?
That's not. I don't know how to spell.
You just said you aced your English test, and now you're telling me you can't. Whatever. We don't need this in the video right now, Andrew. 15-man committee. Who was on it?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I don't know anyone on it. But we had 8 Republicans, 7 Democrats, and they are going to choose who the next president's going to be. Who is going to get the majority of the votes, the Republicans or the Democrats?
The Republicans.
Why?
Because there's more people.
Because there's a majority of Republicans on it, so the majority is going to pick themselves. And they say that Hayes won. How's the South going to react?
60.
They're going to be mad. They're going to threaten to go to war. They're going to threaten to secede. So, what do?
Compromise.
Compromise. The same thing Henry Clay tried to do from the beginning. The same thing we tried 3 separate times that didn't stop the war from happening. Now we're just like, well, it didn't work before, so it's going to work now, right? They come up with the compromise. The compromise had a few parts. Do you remember what these parts were?
Retract northern troops.
Okay. So we call that home rule. The South has control of the South. No more troops. What else?
Hayes would be elected.
Okay. Hayes is president for 1 term only. What else we got?
Just so I remember.
Okay. So we had a Southern Transcontinental Railroad.
Oh, yeah.
The Southern Industrial Revolution, or at least funding for it. And Hayes had to put one Democrat on his cabinet.
Really looks like the Democrats got more than the Republicans.
It does seem like it really favored the Democrats in the long run. The Republicans would say, well, they kind of got what they wanted to because they have the president, they have the House of Representatives, they have the Senate. So they are essentially in full control of the government. Troops are removed. That's good for the South, but it's also good for everyone else because just like those road workers, how's the Army getting paid? They're getting paid through
Taxes.
so taxes are going to go down if troops don't have to be there anymore. Southern Transcontinental Railroad kind of helps everybody if we're doing trade, right? That's a country thing, Henry Clay American system. Southern Industrial Revolution actually never happens. They provided funding for it. Only Atlanta tried, and everyone else just used it as kickbacks to rebuild their farms. And then the Democrat on the cabinet, do you know what cabinet position this was? Do you remember?
Let me guess, Vice President.
Postmaster General.
Oh,
They put a Democrat in charge of the mail.
so virtually useless. Okay.
I mean, mail's important,
Yes, it is.
but it's probably the least impactful of all the cabinet positions. So overall, you can make the argument that Republicans kind of won, the Democrats kind of won. Who's the big loser here?
Everyone?
Black people, the newly freed slaves. Because
Oh, yeah.
who's going to be left to protect them and fight for their rights? Who's going to let them vote peacefully? Not the Southerners who have control back.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be anything to stop them from doing what they were doing before. And that's the compromise of 1877.